Welcome to Climate Quickies, bite-sized nuggets of climate goodness from our TEDxLondon experts in under 5 minutes.
In this week's Climate Curious, we're talking about a little-known impact of an increasingly warming planet, the livelihood of pangolins. Pangolins, sometimes described as scaly anteaters, are under threat due to the impact that crop failure and drought is having on people's livelihoods. Tune in to understand the unsettling drivers behind climate, wildlife conservation, and local economics. On why pangolins need a cooler planet, here's Dr Mark Ofua. Stay curious!
My name is Dr. Mark Ofua. I am a wildlife conservationist and a pangolin rehabilitation expert, and I am also the rep for Wild Africa here in Nigeria. Pangolins are very wonderful creature. I remember the first time I saw one for the first time on the bushmeat table. Now, I focus on rescuing pangolins. Now, pangolins are animals that are not very much well known by people, and it's sad to realize that they are also the most trafficked mammal on Earth. Yes, this thing that looks like a cross between a dinosaur and an aardvark and an armadillo is a pangolin. Now, they have some unique features. First of all, they are mammals, so they give birth to their younger life and they breastfeed them. But also, they are the only mammals that are covered with scales. Hard scales made of keratin cover this mammal. They are also the only mammal with a gizzard. The gizzard is usually a feature of birds, but pangolins have gizzard. They don't have feet, so the gizzard helps them digest their food. So pangolins occur in 2 continents, in Asia and then in Africa. There are 4 species in Asia and then 4 species in Africa. Now the Asians, they believe that the scale of the pangolin has medicinal value. They believe it cures everything from high blood pressure, hypertension, use it as aphrodisiac, use it pretty much to cure everything. And because it's in their pharmacopoeia, it has put lots of pressure on their pangolins. And they are very close to extinction now. And this has made them turn their focus to Africa. And the pressure is now mounting on African pangolins. This has really put a demand on our pangolins and it's driving them towards extinction. Research was done and it was found out that the scale contains the same properties as our fingernails and hair, which is keratin. So almost no medicinal values at all. But this has not deterred the demand for pangolin, and it goes on unabated. You see people going out into the forest to get pangolin for them, looking for them. Going out to the forest to get pangolins and all that. And this has really driven their numbers to close to extinction. The illegal wildlife trade is driven primarily by greed. Okay? There is this saying that nature has enough for everyone's need, but not enough for everyone's greed. So what I found out working is that most of these hunters and bushmeat sellers have other jobs they do. So they do this mainly to augment their income. That was how it started. But with pressure now being put on pangolins and the illegal wildlife trade, you find out that they are now seeing that trading these animals is now a major money earner. And then, as usual, they want more and they want more and they want more. In recent times, the pressure has become worse because of the effect of climate change. Now, we usually are unable to see the big picture and trace the circles, connect the dots, and then see how all these things are related. But for those of us in the field, we see it ever more and more so. Initially, when this trade started, you just had the hunters were not even going for pangolins. Pangolin was a bycatch. You understand? Because these animals are nocturnal, they're usually up in the trees and all that. This is a tree pangolin, and you get to know them by their long tail. They are going for bigger game, and then they see a pangolin and they carry it. But with the pressure that has come into pangolin now, they now go deliberately into the forest to look for pangolins. And with the climate change has caused some unseen circumstances that we didn't prepare for. But we are beginning to see the effect. First of all, condition of living, life has become harder. And usually the people who bear the brunt of it are the people that interface with nature, because facilities are poorly developed there. So you have climate effects like flooding, droughts, and with droughts, right behind droughts is forest fires. You see, forest fires, usually we used to think that it was an act of God or something magical, but we have seen in recent times that different things can start a forest fire, either the farmer working and it does not curtail bush burning, or glass that concentrates sun rays and then starts a fire. So these things have made living harder. And poverty is on the rise, especially here in Nigeria. So with the effect of climate change and governance, what people are turning to right now is any way they can survive. So you find people who now see, oh, it's possible for me to catch up to 10 pangolins in a day and I will do well. So they turn their focus right now. You see people who are now becoming incidental criminals. These are people that weren't criminals before, but because of the hardship that has been occasioned by climate change, you see them now willingly going out to get this. We are facing directly as humans the direct effect of climate change. Direct effect that the population faces, as well as the communities that interface with the forest, crop damage. We're entering the rain season here in Nigeria now, and honestly, we're holding our breath because last year was horrible. We had flooding in the areas where there were no flooding before. Farmlands were destroyed. Animals died in their numbers. In fact, it was so bad that the zoo in a community in a city was flooded, and you had all the animals in town. Imagine waking up and there's a lion strolling next to your door. It was disastrous. And these things are not abating because really we are not facing the climate change challenge as we should. So instead of abating, they actually are getting worse. So we don't know the effect this will have. And with the damage to crop, damage to livestock, damage to infrastructure, and things getting harder, the farmer who was a saint, or the middleman who was trading in crops or farm produce, would now look for other ways of survival. And if he sees that, pangolins and pangolin scales is a money earner in the black market, they are willing to face the odds. They tell you they have to provide for their family. They have to survive. The saying that the world is a global village is most true when you're talking about conservation, biodiversity, and climate activity, because what happens in one region affects other regions. So if we lose these iconic animals, if they go extinct, it's going to affect us, and what affects me affects you. So my message for everyone really is, let's be more aware of the effect of climate change. Learn about conservation activities. Find out ways that you can support conservation activities, either local conservation around you or international conservation. There must be something you can do. Lend the voice to nature's cry. Listen, you are a preacher, you are a prophet, you are a speaker for nature. Start tackling to your government and ask them what are they really doing, not just saying about climate action, about positive action for climate change. Here in Africa, we have this saying. We say, if your friends around you are beginning to prosper and do better, rest assured it's going to come to you. Now, let me flip that saying. If life forms around you are beginning to die off and go extinct, be alarmed because it's going to come to you. Lend an ear to nature's cry and speak for nature. Because like they say, nature is a very gentle mother. but when aroused, she can be very terrible.
Thanks for listening to this quickie.
This episode was created by our superstar podcast team at TEDxLondon. Until next time,
Stay curious.